Welcome to 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K Plus movies to randomly watch, whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. This is Colin.
This is Niall.
It is, yes, you're there. This is random movie number 11,782. 27 Dresses, the second movie in a row where we have number in the title, which is confusing. From 2008, 111 minutes long, 4.7 Metascore, 5.8 user score, 30 million budget, and it made 162.7 million in the box office. So did pretty well for everybody involved. Just a little background on the main players in the background before Niall gets on with the plot. Directed by Anne Fletcher, who has a sort of a oeuvre of rom-coms: Step Up, The Proposal, The Guilt Trip, and her most recent, she's kind of not really done too much, but she's doing Hocus Pocus 2, the follow-up to the 1993 movie with Sarah
Let's
Jessica
not forget
Foster.
The Pacifier as well.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, that was Vin Diesel doing daycare or something like that, looking after kids. So, yeah, interestingly, not rom-com, but horrific.
Yeah, written by Aline Brosh McKenna, who has a sort of a track record of penning successful not rom-coms but comedies as well. Devil Wears Prada was one. Morning Glory, yeah, hugely successful. Then she did 27 Dresses. Then it was followed up by Morning Glory, and she also wrote We Bought a Zoo. And she recently, her most recent job is writing and also directing, I believe, Your Place or Mine. February 2023, I think, just came out with Reese Witherspoon. I don't know how it's doing. I don't know if it's making trails at the box office or anything, but it's good to see that they're both in action still in 2023.
Yeah.
So I did the plot for movie 43 and I enjoyed it immensely. So now you get to deliver the plot of 27 Dresses.
Yeah, fun time. So, it's a rom-com, obviously. So the story kicks off. She's an 8-year-old kid, realizes that her love is weddings. So fast forward a few years. She's at a wedding night. She's wearing a dress, obviously, and then in the background you see Mr. Marsden hanging around, aka Kevin, aka Malcolm. So then she runs out the door. Malcolm, Kevin, James Marsden notices this. She gets into a taxi, goes to another wedding, changes dress in the taxi. Taxi man gets a couple of sneaky peeks in the mirror, loses money for his efforts.
He turns up at the end too.
He does, yeah. That happens a few times. She's jumping over and back between two weddings. Obviously, she's double booked herself. She didn't want to say no to her friends. Anyway, long story short, on this piece, she goes to grab the wedding bouquet at the end of, I think, the first wedding, and she gets knocked unconscious because it gets kind of violent, apparently. And who should be the person who wake her up but, Mr. Marsden. Anyway, he dumps her in a taxi, goes with her, drops her off home, makes sure she's okay. She leaves behind her diary.
Her planner, yeah.
He cracks it open, has a quick look, and he's like, I'm not dropping this back just yet. Anyway, turns out
Cinderella.
Very Cinderella. Turns out he works as a journalist for the New York Journal. Yeah. And he's stuck doing commitment section, which is wedding articles. Not a big fan of what he's doing. He wants out. Obviously, if you're a journalist, you want to do something a little bit more meaty. But he sees this journal as a possible vehicle for getting out of this dead end job. Um, Tracks back to her. It's her in her office. She's clearly in love with her boss. Boss doesn't see it. She's kind of pathetic in this respect. She's fawning over her. Her friends basically calling her a fool. Probably phrased differently in the movie. But then her sister turns up. Sister bumps into boss. Sister boss, well, straight away hook up. Boom. Happy days.
Yeah,
Unless
pretty
you're
quickly.
unless you're Katherine, who's not exactly delighted about it, but has to pretend to be delighted about it. Anyway, 10 seconds later, they're getting married, or engaged to be married. And of course, she gets roped into organizing everything. Doesn't want to do it, but being a yes person, she gets stuck doing it. Anyway, as this is happening, Marsden's also dropped back her diary. But when she goes to look inside it, he's stuck his name on every Saturday. Same time, he's talked to his boss to say, listen, I've got this great new article. This diary here is gold. She agrees to let him write about it. And he's also kind of stalking her in this, in a quaint way. What else happens next? It's only light stalking. It's not full on stalking.
Well, the major thing, I believe, just to chime in here, the major sort of scene in this is when he's over at her place and she goes through all the 27 dresses from the title, and she goes through sort of a Pretty Woman type thing of wearing them all, and he's taking
Yeah.
photos of it.
She does a bit of a fashion show. They have fun. There's obviously something between them during this scene. Anyway, that's fine until Mr. Marsden cops that she fancies the boss and he confronts her with it. She's not delighted with that revelation. Then later on that day, he gives her a lift somewhere. I actually can't remember where he's giving her a lift to, but oh no, sorry, that's a lie. She's giving him a lift somewhere. Anyway, she's angry, driving like a lunatic. It's raining. They crash. Not great. But then they go to a bar. They get faced. Dance to Elton John and Benny and the Jets, great song, and hook up in the car, which is great. Next morning, they're
Oh yeah.
hungover, Betsy, and they're in a diner. And the waitress in the diner says, "Oh, it's you. You're famous," and shows her a copy of the newspaper, which was not supposed to be published yet, but it's published anyway. And this is where he gets a slap in the chops.
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so, because he's used her at this point. It's not very nice. Now, in his defense, he told the boss not to do it, but he was still going to publish the article by the sounds of it. He just wanted to
Yeah,
be out.
he's very untruthful. I think one of the funniest parts where I kind of laughed out loud was in the diner when I think the dude just came up and said,
Oh
"Hey,
yeah,
Benny and the
Benny!
Jets." That was quite funny. That was quite
Yeah,
funny the way he said it.
yeah, and she's like, "What? What? Oh yes, Benny and the Jets." Yeah, been there, done that, but not the Benny and the Jets. So fast forward a little bit. Sister's not happy about a lot of things. She's really not happy about, well, Catherine's not happy about her sister marrying the boss. She goes a bit off the rails at the wedding rehearsal where she
Yeah.
changes the slideshow. So she shows a slide of her boss and sees, this is why my boss is lovely. Next slide. This is the exact opposite. My sister straight away saying, she said she was
Yeah.
vegan, but here she is chomping down on some pork ribs, and so
With
on and
her
so forth.
engagement ring on. Yeah.
With her engagement ring on, say that it was yesterday, so you're a big
Yeah.
lying fecker.
Yeah.
Absolute sabotage. Horrific thing to do, really, because not nice in the
It
boss, and
was
it's
in.
not nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was confusing. It was a confusing time for the main character. Just, she was really in a turmoil after the expose in the newspaper.
Yeah,
James Marsden's character being a little brat to her with doing it behind her back, and like she just realized that her sister was lying to her boss
yeah,
George,
and what I normally
as the
find in a
basis of their wedding.
well, yeah, what I normally find in a rom com and like this is you'd expect in a standard arc they drop something horrific happens, but in this one it's a double whammy. So it's one slight difference from the standard rom com. She the expose and then obviously the sister, and then she goes even deeper with this sabotage. So she's right in the toilet. Obviously Marsden shows up to save the day slightly, cheers her up a little bit, gives her a BlackBerry. Here you
Mm,
go. Don't use your diary anymore. Okay. Sisters have a big fight for about 30 seconds, and then they're friends again, nearly straight
yeah,
away, which I thought was a bit daft. But I guess they wanted to get that piece out of the way because they're running out of time or something. I don't know.
yeah,
At this point, she chucks out all 27 dresses, or at least puts them into storage,
she
um,
does.
and moves on with her life. First time in this movie, I went, yes, you're not being an idiot. Right after that, she goes into work, tells the boss, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I've been in this job far too long and I only stayed because you were here and I love you. Then the boss kisses her and she goes, nah, that's not great. And then the new boyfriend calls and she goes, aha, I actually like this chap. Um, yeah. And then, oh, yes. And then she goes to see Mr. Marsden at his place of work, which is at another wedding,
Hmm.
and jumps onto a ship, gets on
Good
the
jump.
mic. It was a great jump until she fell over. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and then and then she jumps up onto the stage with the aid of the bride who recognizes her, and she shouts out at Mr. Marsden, "Love you," which is probably not a good move in my opinion, but it worked. They get
She
married.
hijacked the wedding though. It's pretty. I like the fact that she just forgave him for doing all the journalistic stuff, and then she's the one pleading to him. It was like, no, come on, maybe a lot has changed since 2008. You wouldn't get that nowadays in a movie where the woman
True.
is fawning and pleading, and she didn't do anything wrong.
She didn't. No, she didn't. He was a bit of a jerk. Now, he was calling her every 10 minutes after that. Again, Stokey. Um, but anyway, they get married.
You do.
And then the bridesmaids for her wedding, there's 27 of them, and they're all wearing the 27 dresses. And that's nicely tied up in a little bow.
Finn. That was nice. The pan out at the end. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's simple but effective. Not the worst rom com, not the best. Um,
Listen, I don't watch them a lot. My wife watches
Same.
everything. She was very happy that I was going to be watching this and sent me a
Really.
crying, laughing emoji because she knew I didn't really want to watch it.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you,
I got the same from my
this is
wife. She insisted on watching it at the same time.
this is the sixth movie in our podcast, and this was the most chilled I was watching one. I wasn't hating it. I was just along for the ride. I felt
Yeah,
I felt
absolutely.
sometimes. I think that I think I don't know when there was a couple of times where I thought it would have gone a bit deeper with the emotions. I felt there was something there with Katherine Heigl's character about their parents' wedding, and the fact that her mum died at a young age, and she was focused on in this wedding. Her parents' wedding was the impetus for her to sort of romanticize weddings, along with this the start of the movie where she's a young kid
Yeah.
and she saves the day at the wedding. Also, when her sister, who was a terrible person, very
Oh,
very
she chops
surface
up the
level,
dress. Yeah.
she chops up the dress, and I was like going, okay, now this is a moment where we need to just focus a little bit on Katherine Heigl's character and her, and we need to really see a bit of a strong emotional reaction here, sadness, just depression for a little bit, just something a little bit more, but could sort of rapidly glosses it over a bit. She's obviously affected by it, and she storms out when she sees the fully made dress, where it's not actually, it's like 5% of the old dress. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the rest of the dress is in the heap. But I think they decided to keep it light, to keep it simple, bubblegum for the eyes type thing, where you don't have to worry too much about their mental state or anything deeper.
yeah, I guess that's why, I don't know this genre too much, and I guess it really, a lot of them don't go this far, especially in this, in Katherine Heigl's sort of back catalogue. She's probably got a lot of these in a row, and it's
Well,
probably not. It's probably just follows the same recipe.
she did spend a lot of time in digging deep into stuff like this in Grey's Anatomy. She was actually quite good in that. I have
Mm.
originally thought it a misfortune to have watched it, but my wife forced me to watch a few seasons of it, and it wasn't bad. She was quite good in it, likable character.
There's like there's like 57 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't
It's
watch all
going
of
on
them.
forever.
That's a bit much for me.
No, yeah. So yeah, the plot obviously just, I think just, yeah, generics. There's a few little layers to it that makes it stand out a bit. I think her looking at her parents' wedding as the perfect exemplar for a wedding. Her love of her boss George, who, really, yeah, he's a nice guy, but is he anything more than that? He's a bit of a two
Shallow.
D character.
Yeah, he's a very shallow
Yeah,
character.
shallow. Yeah, yeah, and I think the 27 dresses as the core concept of this movie works quite well. It's a hefty sort of anchor to lay the plot on, and it bulges out of her wardrobe throughout the movie, and it's sort of this weight on her shoulders, literally. So I think it's pretty
The funny
decent.
thing about the 27 dresses, though, like the writer actually didn't come up with this, didn't pull it from her backside. It's actually based on one of her friends.
Oh,
Interestingly enough, called Katie.
oh.
So she was maybe not 27 times as a bridesmaid, but she was a perpetual bridesmaid, and it's kind of loosely enough based on her.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, write what you know about,
Yeah, yeah.
That's yeah. So plot, listen, I'm thinking about my overall ratings from a scale of 0 to 5, and I'm not going to give this. I'm going to give this below average because I'm not really a fan of this. So I'm giving it a 1.5 out of 5. What about you?
I give it two, mostly because at the end of the day, I wasn't annoyed by the movie. It
Hmm.
left me a slightly happy feeling. Not saying I enjoyed the movie, and we're not going to watch it again, but very inoffensive, not deep. You know, Again, if you want to turn your brain off, it's a fine movie.
I think that point 0.5 there is a rebound score from movie 43.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to acting then, which is, it's tied in strongly with the plot. Now, Katherine Heigl got a lot of plaudits for this, got a lot of jobs from this.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what I don't see her as this strong leading actor. She's got a lot of facial emotions that she makes use of during the movie. She's obviously a good actor. That's nothing to take away from that. But I just didn't get that. The je ne sais quoi.
Like all the actors in movie 43, if without substance, without a script that's something you can get your teeth into, it's very hard to show your range. And I think that's true of this movie.
Yeah, and it's saying like James Marsden, and it could be, you could just throw actors' names into a hat, and you could pick anybody. Anybody could have done that. All he did was flash a smile a lot and do.
I actually kind of liked him in this, though.
It was fine.
He plays the cheeky chappy quite well, a bit of a lovable rogue. He's okay at it. Like, he has to be a pretty chap, obviously. And I suppose he is. My wife said he is. Uh, but yeah, I thought he's more than adequate in it. Great, no, but reasonably good.
Yeah, and it was weird. Near the end of the movie, I think it's when she's talking in the boat, or she describes him. She describes him as cranky, and it's like he's not cranky.
No, he's not.
No,
No,
so I don't know where
not,
that
not by
came
our
from.
standards, anyway.
Yeah. Everybody else. Obviously, I knew James Marsden from playing Cyclops and X-Men. That's pretty much
Yeah,
where I knew him from.
same as Sonic the Hedgehog. Don't forget that; very important. I like Judy Greer in it. I love Judy Greer though.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
she
not
does,
bad.
she's like yeah,
I
as the
wasn't.
sparky, grounded friend.
Yeah, who kind of who was her support along with the kind
Yeah,
of in contrast to the sister relationship with the sister, and I didn't really like Malin Ackerman's portrayal of the sister. I don't know. She played the role, but I wasn't too happy with the performance. I thought it was quite forced at times.
yeah.
Uh,
There was no feeling.
yeah,
Well, again, maybe the script was very shallow. There was no substance behind it. Like a character's not fleshed out, so maybe it's
yeah,
hard to play something that is as wishy washy as her character is in this movie. I don't
yeah.
know
I don't
much
know.
about her as an actress, though, outside of this movie.
No, she hasn't done too much. I looked her up and I didn't see anything there to take note of. I just think that she didn't pop out. She didn't
No, not
add
at all.
too much extra to her character. When she met George's little brother, the Ola Pedro thing, like that could have been a part where she stood out in a comedic way, but she didn't nail
No,
that line.
no. It
Could have
falls
been
flat.
funnier. Yeah. Edward Burns, I think he started off strongly with his brothers McMullen in '95. He wrote and directed that,
Mm,
and he was in Saving Private Ryan as well. But other than that, I'm not a big fan of his. He plays a similar
same.
character. He's got the same sort of deliverance of his lines as well. Yeah, just a note to Katherine Heigl before we move on. Like this dress 27 Dresses was in the middle of her sort of golden era. She did Knocked Up, The Ugly Truth, Killers, Life as We Know It, and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
those movies were pretty big hits for her. Coincidentally enough, I just saw her face pop up today on a
Outside the
feed
window.
on a You're mocking my movie. No, she's weirdly enough, she's going to be in a rom com, but with
Oh,
John Travolta as her
what?
rom. Yeah, there's a bit of an age difference there.
That's weird.
Yeah, so that's popping up, and I don't know when it's coming out, but I think they're in pre-production
You'll
for
be
some sort
queuing
of.
up in the cinema for that one, yeah.
I will be. Yeah, I'll be there with my John Travolta Saturday Night Fever outfit and my 27 dresses. I'll get 27 friends to wear 27 dresses. So acting, I gave 2 out of 5. What about you?
I gave 2.5 again. Oh,
Yeah, you're a
sorry.
bit
I tell a lie. I scratched it out and put 0. So it's 2.0.
okay. Okay, yeah, so that's
I
very
think
similar.
halfway through the movie, I got annoyed by somebody and scratched out half.
That was probably Tess, the sister.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think anybody else really annoyed me in it. She sort of annoyed me. Uh, yeah, so let's move on to soundtrack. This is our first movie in 6 episodes where there is actually a soundtrack. Obviously, Summer of Soul had a
That,
soundtrack
that doesn't
due to
count.
it
That's
being a
just
concert.
wall to wall movies, yeah, of songs.
Yeah, so this one had, it starts off with Michael Jackson, Don't Stop Till You
Mhm.
Get Enough, or whatever that is. So that starts off with your wedding montage, and then it's got a lot of different songs throughout it. Obviously, Benny and the Jets, Elton John's come up as a bit of a high point of the movie, I guess you could say. But I
Um,
must go ahead, sorry.
yeah, probably one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. Kind of unbelievable, but still not bad.
It was fine. It was forced. It wasn't really the people were a bit too involved and too into it to like they're cheering somebody on. Like get that hell down from the table.
It was fine
I
until they
wanna.
got up in the bar, and then I'm like, no, don't be daft. What are you doing?
Yeah, you're not the main players here, but you are actually. So, uh, just when you go on Spotify and search for 27 Dresses soundtrack, You get unofficial playlists of the songs, the actual songs, like Elton John and Michael Jackson or whatever. But if you look at the official album soundtrack,
Oh,
it's
Randy.
instrumentals by Randy and Edelman. So like you'll hear it throughout the movie, all these sort of jingly jangly strings moments. And I actually listened to the first track today on Spotify, and it was quite relaxing. It was the wedding intro, and it was very lullaby like, and just quite nice. And like I want to actually mention Randy because he's got a bit of a back catalogue here, and hold on to your hat, but he composed the MacGyver theme.
That's a big hitter right there, isn't it?
It's an amazing theme. Dun,
Yep.
dun, 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 dun. Cue pictures of MacGyver making bombs with tinfoil and a paperclip. It's an amazing theme tune.
Absolutely.
He also composed the theme tune for Ghostbusters 2 and Kindergarten Cop, amongst others.
Yep, and he's had a lot of work with Alvin and the Chipmunks. A lot of work with Alvin and the Chipmunks. In fact, I think he does most of their songs or their arrangements of their songs. I think to a
Not the
point.
squeaky voices.
No, no, he doesn't. He doesn't sing on the songs, but he modifies the songs so that they can sing it.
The
Not
one
sure
thing
what that
about him
involves.
too,
Hmm?
no, one thing
Oh,
about him, he is married to a very talented lady called Jackie DeShannon, who I'd never heard of, but she's sung a lot of songs. What the World Needs Now, a Burt Bacharach penned thing. When You Walk in the Room, and Put a Little Love in Your Heart, which is the end song to Scrooged, if you want a little movie tie into that. Also, she supported Bob Dylan in 1965 and covered a bunch of his songs. So, very talented lady. That's a very talented couple, to be honest with you.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, nothing special though. I gave the soundtrack 2 out of 5. Nothing too crazy.
I was a bit more generous. I gave it a 3, just because I like. Some of these songs didn't really feature all that heavy. Such
No,
as like, okay, Elton John, yes, massive. But it was Amy Winehouse, Kasabian, Block Party, stuff like that. They're not featured very heavily, but they are pseudo credited to the movie. They're good songs. They probably need to be in there a bit more. Maybe three is a bit
yeah,
much, but I'm going to stick with it because I like the list of
no,
songs that were listed. Randy's
yeah, that's
stuff was
fine.
actually quite serviceable as well.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. All right, we'll move on to production here, and I think just probably the one thing I'd probably want to focus on here is the costumes, because Catherine Merritt Thomas, was the costume designer for this one, she was basically told by Anne Fletcher, the director, just go big, ugly, and bright for the costumes, for the bridesmaid costumes,
Yeah.
and I think she did a very stellar job with that. And if I didn't research into her, and if I wasn't in this podcast, I would never have known that she also did the costume for Kill Bill 1 and 2. So she's the one responsible for the yellow jumpsuit and the yellow Mexico 66 sneakers that Uma Thurman wears. So we're dealing with a heavy hitter there.
Well, was it that? Like, I love the Kill Bill outfit, but it's just ripping off. I was going to say Jackie Chan. Sorry.
Bruce
Ah,
Lee.
Bruce Lee. Yes. From Into the Dragon, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think she brought it in. I think
No, no,
Uma
it fits
Thurman
perfectly
made
and
it
it
hers.
works well. The jumpsuit's amazing. I shouldn't be knocking her too much. I love that movie, Kill Bill, and the outfits are fantastic. And
No, your knowledge of where that inspiration came from is noted and ignored. Yeah, and I also think any movie that has New York City streets in it, it always gives me a nice feeling. I like New York City as a backdrop.
that's why it's used so many times in movies. Though it's a character all to itself and a strong character.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I just gave the production 2 out of 5. Nothing too crazy with the production.
Yeah, I
What
went
about
with the
you?
same.
Yeah. So the highest rating this got from the critics was a 75 from the Baltimore Sun. Chris Kattenbach, I think his name is. It says, predictable but utterly engaging. 27 Dresses will likely be remembered as the film that made Katherine Heigl an A-list star. So I don't think it made her an A-list star, but it certainly gave her a little run of good hits there in the rom-com scene.
Didn't hurt her
And
career.
the lowest, no, it didn't hurt her career. The lowest was Mick LaSalle. He gave it 25. I had forgotten to write down what, I think it might have been the Boston Globe or something, I'm not sure. He basically said, it gets worse and worse as it goes along, and finally ends just as it's becoming unbearable. So, not very
No, I wouldn't
nice
agree
there
with
from
that.
him.
I find it
Yeah.
more bearable as it goes along, to be honest.
Yeah. I think Mick was coming off a hard breakup or something, or maybe he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
That's it.
All right. I think we'll put a line under 27 Dresses. I think we've turned over every stone we could turn over there for a rom-com that we don't usually watch as grumpy old men.
You do know that the next movie is going to be a rom-com, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. But having said that, let's roll the dice for the next one. Random movie coming up. Here we go. It is number... Oh, why is it staying high all the time?
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, 15145.
Oh.
This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt a lot.
You know, I think we should have a nice little tune that plays as the numbers flick past on your screen.
Yeah, true. All right,
Countdown
let's
tune or
see.
something.
Yeah, I should. I could add that if I was creative. 15145. Here we go. All right, scrolling down. 15145. Oh, brother. It's a movie from 2004. It's PG-13. It's marked rated 23 out of 100. It's called My Baby's Daddy.
Christ, what is this? The Dairy Bringer show or something?
Oh no! Even looking at the DVD cover. After a lifetime of hard partying, three bachelor buddies from the hood are in for a rude awakening when their respective girlfriends all get pregnant at the same time. Anthony Anderson, Eddie Griffin, Michael Imperioli. So I know Anthony Anderson. He's not got the best run of comedic gems in his back catalogue. All right, that's something to look forward to, isn't it?
I'm just going to jump out the window now.
Yeah. All right, so that is the end of episode 6 of 15K plus random movie reviews. And we will see you on the next episode for My Baby's Daddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.